The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, Paul James here. Give me a quick one in the chat box. Let me know if you can hear me okay and see my screen. And we'll go ahead and get started. Hey Sano from Hawaii. I'm excited to be working together with you soon. Sano is actually doing some coaching with me, so that's going to be fun. Hey Paul, Dr. Paul Kahn here in the UK. You see my screen and hear me loud and clear? Awesome. Welcome. We got quite a few people in here already. Not bad for a Tuesday afternoon. I thought that evening webinar times would be better because I figure, a lot of people have jobs and they're doing this on a part-time basis, and trying to move into full-time. And not everyone has the privilege of being able to do this full-time yet. But from previous webinars I've done and stuff, this seems to be a pretty good time. I mean, we normally get the most people on during the afternoon hours. So, yeah. So where's everyone calling in from? There's quite a few people trickling in yet, so I don't want to jump into the good stuff yet until everyone's in. So we'll let people get their GoToWebinar software updated and downloaded, and we'll just find out where everyone's calling in from. So what I'm doing these sessions for is, stuff changes. Google implements new things like dashboard upgrades and their UI and looks different and stuff. So I thought it would be cool if we continue doing these webinars every other month or so to kind of cover what's changing. You know what I mean? I just figured it'd be helpful. All right, we got Anton from Naples, Florida. Another Paul in North Carolina. A lot of Pauls in the house. Wow. All right, David from Phoenix. Alan says it's evening there. Hey, Paul, getting you loud and clear. Orange County, California. Awesome. All right. Rod, yeah, this is gonna be about maps. That's definitely what we're talking about here. So you're in the right place at the right time. Cool. Yeah, so we're going to hold these mastermind webinar sessions. Like I said, probably every month and a half. Talking about 7-Pack, aka Google Maps, aka Google My Business, aka Google Places, aka Google Plus Local. That's a lot of names, isn't it? It's a lot of name changes. So that's kind of why I want to continue holding these sessions, and hopefully you guys are cool with that. We'll kind of mastermind back and forth. You guys can ask questions. I'll answer them. And we'll just overall grow our business because of it. That's being strategic and being able to leverage each other's experience. We all see different things, so we can all kind of come in and talk about that. So Steve says something cool. Looks like the 7-Pack came back for real estate agents. Yeah, I'm noticing that, Steve. I'm noticing a lot of 7-Packs coming back, but then there's other areas where some of our clients are where they're not back yet. So, yeah, it just depends. You want to check that area first before you decide to jump into it. So, yeah, this is presented by me, Paul James. Anyone new here? Give me some 3s in the chat box if you're new. This is me. Give me some 3s if you've never been on one of my webinars before. Give me a 2 if you've been on it plenty of times before. Just kind of want to know. Okay, we got some new people. All right, so this is me. I'm Paul James, 27 years old. You can add me. You want to add me? Go ahead and add me there. Support any questions or anything like that maybe comes up during this that I don't get a chance to answer. I mean, we've got hundreds of people on this call right now. So I'm going to do my best to answer questions, but if I can't, this is the email address to direct questions to after we get off the webinar. But yeah, feel free to add me. I'm from Wisconsin, West Bend, Wisconsin, and it's right outside of Milwaukee, about 20 minutes outside of Milwaukee, and I've been doing this full time for, I think around 5 years now, and it's enabled me to do a lot of cool things. In this picture, I'm in my Mercedes-Benz GLK, which is, cool car. It's been, that was kind of like my dream car, something that I never thought possible to even be able to get. 5 years ago, I didn't think that would be possible, and I was able to, pay cash for that and not have a loan, so that was kind of cool. I also purchased my first home at, I think, 23 or 24. So that was cool too. Pretty nice home, and I'm actually buying a second home now too as well on the lake. So, You know, this business model has enabled me to do some pretty cool things, which is why I keep talking about it. There's a reason why I keep doing these webinars, you know. It's because this business model works and it continues to work. And that's the only thing I have up right now, Steve. There's nothing else to look at yet. So anyways, for those of you who are new, let's talk about what that business model is. So like I said, it's called Google Maps or Google My Business. Let's zoom in on the screen here. Basically what it is it's generating leads for business owners. So what I do is I find a business owner who I want to work with who maybe needs more business or isn't getting enough, like a plumber, for example. And what I do is I put together a listing for them and I put them here on the first page, right in this 7-pack. And that's why we call it 7-pack. It's directly tied to Google Maps, which is why you see a map thing here. So when someone comes in and types in plumber Milwaukee, you know, for example, this isn't my client, but maybe this would be them, you know, and they'd stand out from everyone else and they would be getting all the phone calls. All right. So can you guys see my screen okay? Let me know in the chat box. Are you seeing the plumbing stuff? Some people say the screen isn't moving, so I just want to make sure. Okay. Yeah, most people are seeing it. So if you're not seeing it, if you're not seeing Milwaukee Plumbing Google search, you might want to try and relog because it looks like most people are seeing it okay. But we'll have a recording too. So I mean, if something goes wrong or you can't see it, I apologize, but we'll make sure we have a recording too. So yeah, judging by this search, you know, let's just say, for example, if you were looking for a plumber in Milwaukee, which one of these might you call? Normally, I'd say probably the one that jumps out at you. This one, Bowman Plumbing, except the problem I see with this one, they've got star ratings, but what do you think the problem is with their star ratings? Yeah, it doesn't got a very good review. So that's something that kind of goes hand in hand with what I do too, is sometimes we do a little bit of review management and manage the reviews that are coming into the listing, which adds some nice cross-sell and upsell potential too, because, you know, what good does being there do if they have bad reviews, you know? So anyways, if they were to have a 5-star rating, even though they're not number one, I'd say they probably get most of the calls. So this is what we try to do when we're trying to enter a new market. And we try to, you know, we do searches like plumber Milwaukee, and then we go and look and we say, is there a market here, you know? Is there a way that I can stand out in front of these other 7 listings? And I would say, based on this search, heck yeah, right? Heck yeah, I could do a lot of stuff, you know? There's no one here with star ratings, and the one person who is there with star ratings has a bad rating, so this would be a great demographic. Now, on the other hand, if I went and typed in graphic designer Cedarburg, I'm not seeing any 7-pack pop up. So I like to stick with the 7-pack, and there's a couple different reasons, and this is the 7-pack again. There's a couple different reasons. Number one, you're competing with only local competition, right? You need to have a local address in order to even show up here. So, you know, that eliminates national SEO competitors. The other thing is it's a lot easier to rank in the 7-pack. I'm going to show you some different strategies and tactics today that you can use to get yourself ranked here and get those leads pouring in. But you don't have to use all of them. Quite honestly, a lot of times you can get away with using just 1 or 2 of the strategies and you can dominate your competition, especially if you pick, you know, a low competition niche. All right. So John says, why didn't a 7-pack show up for graphic designer Cedarburg? And the answer is really, I don't know. Sometimes Google decides that there's not enough of a market for maybe graphic designers in Cedarburg. So maybe there's not enough people searching for it, looking for local businesses for this particular local business in Cedarburg. So it's important that you check that first. Yeah, Steve, you can rank for multiple keywords. It just depends how the website is structured and how you do your off-page SEO, which we'll talk about. So that being said, let's talk about just a couple more factors of things that I look for. So obviously I'm looking for a way to stand out in the 7-pack. You know, I mean, it's not 100% a must, but it's a nice plus. It's a nice plus if I can easily step in with very little effort and be the Milwaukee plumber that stands out the most, which is going to be easy by just getting 5 reviews with good ratings, right? The next thing I would check is I would grab one of my competitors, like, I would grab maybe this Bowman Plumbing or this Rosga Corp or this Gene Wager Plumbing, and I would just kind of look at their overall SEO profile. So the way you do that is you grab their URL here, and you use this tool called majestic.com, and you paste it in. So we'll put the HTTP there and the www dot like this. You paste it in, you hit the search icon, and it'll give you an overall view of what their SEO profile looks like. So here's what we're really looking at. We want to know how many backlinks they have, and just kind of take a look at if they're any good. So the number we're interested in looking at is this 29 number. So 29 means there's 29 different sites that put their link on it. So for example, if you don't understand what a backlink is, let me explain it just a little bit further. So a backlink would be like, let's say CNN wrote an article about your company. And at the end of the article, they directed their readers to go check out your website. So they put a link back to your site. So that would be considered a backlink. So Google looks at these backlinks and they judge them by, the power in them. There's certain metrics that we can look at, and I'll explain more about those in a little bit. But basically, this referring domain number, that signifies the real true number of backlinks that they have. So one way you can see if they're quality backlinks is you can look at this trust flow indicator right here. If this trust flow indicator is above 10, it's usually a pretty good indication that their backlink profile is pretty solid. So it's going to let you know that, you might need to think about looking at 29 backlinks to compete with this specific company. Now, that being said, we might be able to go down and look at one of these lower companies down here, and they might not have such an intricate backlink profile. So, we could do less work and probably rank above them still. And if we have a good rating, we could still probably scoop up a lot of those reviews. So let's just kind of see. I don't know what this is going to turn up because I didn't do any pre-research before I jumped on the call with you guys. Kind of wanted to do it live. Okay, so look at this. So they have 13 referring domains, a lot less than the other one, and their trust flow is also only 9, which means their domains probably aren't very powerful. So we could probably get just a couple good backlinks and easily outrank them. Is this stuff helpful? Give me some 2s in the chat box. So I do all this kind of stuff before I even decide to enter a niche. Cool, lots of 2s. Yeah, so you do this before you enter a niche because you don't want to enter a niche and then do this and then find out, oh man, I'm in over my head. I just entered a really competitive niche and my competitor has 1,000 referring domains with a 31 trust flow, and how am I ever going to compete with that? You know what I mean? It's not that you can't, but it's just going to cost you far more money trying to compete with them, and it might not be worth it. So I like to work smarter. Okay, so let's talk about the quality of backlinks. I've gotten pretty good at explaining this, so let me know if this is helpful for you or not, but I think it will be. So Google judges a backlink's quality, like the site where the link came from, like CNN, for example, based on a scale called PageRank, or PR. And that scale runs from 0 to 10. 0 being the lowest PageRank, or it could not have a PageRank at all. It would say like NA. And then 10 being the highest PageRank. So like CNN, for example, is probably really high. They're probably like a 9. I don't know exactly. We could check it, but I'm guessing they're probably a PageRank 9. So if I had a backlink from CNN, that would be like a really, really high quality backlink. And that's going to boost my trust flow number up. Now there's a problem with PageRank though. And that problem is that it's not updated. Google hasn't updated the PageRank scale for a while. So a site might say that they have a 0 PageRank, but really, if Google were to do an update, that PageRank might really be 4. So it might be really good. So since they haven't done updates in a while, SEO started switching to like a new scale. And that's called, it's a third-party metric by a company named Moz, and it's called DA. And that stands for Domain Authority. Now, domain authority runs pretty similar to PR, only it's on a scale of 0 to 100. And basically, this is how it works. You basically add a 0 onto the domain authority, or take a 0 off, and that would be your PR. So for example, if I had a domain authority of 20, so DA of 20, that would basically equal a PR2. So do you see kind of what I did there? If you add the 0 on, that's your domain authority. And then that would be basically what it equates to in PR form. So for example, a DA of 26 would be equal to a PR 2.6, right? But if you rounded it up, you'd probably just say PR3. Like if Google realistically did an update, they'd probably just round it up to a PR3. All right, so is that helpful? Give me some 4s if that makes sense. So we can actually look at that, and we can, when we're doing our off-page optimization, we can try to go after some of these high domain authority backlinks, which is a strategy which I'll teach you about. All right, cool. So obviously, I saw people asking about keywords. Yeah, Steve, so a domain authority of 100 would equal a PR10. That's exactly right. I think you understand it perfectly. Okay, so people were asking, how do you rank for keywords? You know, how do you rank for multiple keywords in the map listings? So let me kind of explain that to you. It all depends on, number one, I'll put this back, your anchor text from your backlink. So when CNN left the link pointing back to your site, what did the anchor text say? Did it say click here to check out Paul James or whatever? Or did it say internet marketing expert? Was that the hyperlink that you click on? So depending on what that anchor text said at the end of the article, Google can kind of look at that and they can say, oh, okay, he's an internet marketing expert, so maybe we put him at the top of Google for internet marketing expert. So do you know what I mean? Like if you were trying to rank for HVAC contractor Milwaukee, you might want to put some of your backlinks to say HVAC contractor Milwaukee for the hyperlink. You know how you can hyperlink something, like you would highlight it and then I don't know if I can do it in text, but you would put the hyperlink in it so that when they clicked it, it would go to the site. So that's basically what that means. So that's one way we can control what keywords we rank for. But the other way we can control it is how we structure our website. And in my opinion, this is one of the best ways to do it. So how you structure your website can be a big determining factor, even when ranking in the maps listings. Like, depending on the website that's connected to the listing, like this is rotorouter.com, depending on how they structure their website is going to control what keywords they pop up for when someone searches. So before we talk about that, we probably want to talk about how to pick out good keywords, right? Because that's going to be important. So Rob says this is great information. Awesome, Rob. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so before we talk about how to rank for keywords, we should probably talk about how to pick out good keywords, because it doesn't really do you any good, to rank for a keyword if it's not a good keyword, You might think it's good, but it might not be. It might not get any search traffic. So there's a couple different metrics we look at. And for the sake of this, we're just going to use a free tool. You just go to adwords.google.com and you can sign up for a free account there. You don't have to run any advertising campaigns. This is a free tool within their advertising platform. So we're going to go to Tools and then Keyword Planner. And we're going to pop in here and I'm going to show you how I might go about finding new keywords. So I'm just going to kind of show you the way I do it. So we'll hit search for new keywords using a phrase, website, or category. And then what we're going to do, there's kind of two ways you can go about searching. You can either type in your locations here in the targeting, and then you can just type in your keywords like heating contractor. And then if you did that, you would exclude the word Milwaukee or whatever your city is from the actual keyword, because you already included it in your targeting here. Otherwise, you can leave the targeting set to all locations and then just include the modifier on every keyword, and then that way it's automatically targeted to that location because your keyword includes it. We call this a geo modifier. So I like to run the search both ways usually, to be honest. So what I normally do is take like a notepad and I just start typing in things that I think people might search for if they were searching for like a heating contractor. So I think they might search for a heating contractor. I think they might search for HVAC contractor. They probably would search for like heating and cooling, maybe heating and cooling companies. Maybe they would search for furnace repair. Maybe they would search for heating and air conditioning, or heating and air conditioning contractors. Maybe they would search for central air conditioning repair, right? So I come up with a list just off the top of my head of maybe like 15 different things that I can think of. And then I'll search both ways. So I'll search the first way by leaving the geomodifier off. So we'll just copy and paste that list in here. And we'll leave the geomodifier off, but we'll add it here in the targeting. Now when I add it in the targeting, I not only go with one geomodifier like Milwaukee, but I also go after like 5 nearby cities. So I'm going to target Brookfield. I'm going to target Waukesha. I can easily rattle off city names because they're near me. But if I didn't know, like if I was working in a city not near me, I would just look on the map and figure out what the big cities are nearby. And we'll go after West Bend, the city I live in. So the reason why I'm not just targeting the city that the contractor's in, Milwaukee, and I'm also going after 4 outside cities, is because I just want to grab a bigger pool of data. You know, Milwaukee's, I mean, it's a pretty big city, but I want to find a more broad spectrum of area. I want to cover more area because let's be realistic. If someone's searching a certain keyword in Waukesha, 20 miles away from Milwaukee, it's likely that they're going to be searching that in Milwaukee too. So that's why I do it that way. So we're going to hit get ideas. And once this loads, we're going to come to keyword ideas. And here's what we're going to do. So we can assume that we could put a geomodifier on here of whatever city we're in at the end of the day, because that's really what we're going to be targeting. But there's 2 columns that we're interested in. Let's see if you guys can guess what 2 columns we're most interested in. Anyone have any idea? Christy says, what if you have a city name in common? Like, you could just put like the state at the end too, like WI, like the abbreviations. Okay, yeah, we're looking at average monthly searches, which is this column right here. I'll highlight it. And then we're also looking at suggested bid, which also stands for cost per click. So those are the 2 columns we're really interested in. So what I like to do at this point is I like to get out a spreadsheet. So let me pull open a new spreadsheet so we can kind of do this together live. And this is what's kind of cool about kind of masterminding together is, if something doesn't make sense to you guys, you can ask it right now and we can kind of go through it and walk through it right away. So I'm going to create a couple different columns. The first column is going to be keyword. The second column is going to be monthly searches. All right, the third column is going to be suggested bid. And then there's one more column. It's going to be 7-pack with a question mark. Okay, so these are the 4 pieces of information that I need to know most. So heating and cooling is one keyword. And I'll just go ahead and tack Milwaukee on the end of it because that's the city I'm going to be targeting. And how many monthly searches does heating and cooling get? It gets 140. So we're going to put that in there. What's the suggested bid? $7.53. Right? That's right here. All right, and we'll answer this column later. Okay, let's go down to the next one. Furnace repair. So we'll tag Milwaukee on the end of it. 70 monthly searches and a suggested bid of $27.90. That's actually pretty incredible considering it's summer here right now. So I don't know why people are bidding $27.90, but that's pretty amazing. So the top section is exactly what we typed in. The bottom section are other phrases that Google thinks we might also be interested in. So you're going to notice a common trend is that you might see some stats that just say 10, or they might have like this hyphen through it. And what that usually signifies is it usually signifies that Google didn't have enough data to give you accurate results. So that's why I also look at suggested bid, because if I know that people are bidding $6.06 per click on this particular keyword, and what that means is if I were to come into Google, heating and air conditioning, this keyword is, if I were to come into Google and type in heating and air conditioning, and I lived in one of the areas that we targeted, that we entered into the targeting, and I were to click one of these yellow ads, they would get billed $6.06 roughly. Like that's roughly what it costs them. It's not exact, but to Google's best knowledge, that's like the average. So what that tells me is if people are bidding on that keyword, then it must probably get more than 10 monthly searches. So we're gonna write that down. Heating and air conditioning, Milwaukee. And Google says it gets 10 monthly searches, but chances are it gets more because someone's bidding on the keyword. So this is all data I keep into consideration. So once I run it through that way, I start over. I come back in here, go back to Keyword Planner, and I'm going to take time and answer some questions too as soon as I'm finished explaining this next part. And we'll make sure everyone's on the same page. So once I run it through that way, I come back down and run it again, but I turn my targeting off so that it just says all locations. And instead, I add on my geo modifier at the end of every keyword. So let's just copy and paste it. And what you could do too is you could also throw it at the beginning of every keyword. Like you could duplicate this, and instead of saying central air conditioning repair Milwaukee, you could also run it back and say Milwaukee central air conditioning repair. So it'd be a little more work, but you could do it, and you might get some more data doing that. So I would paste it in now with the geo modifier on it, targeting all locations because we've put the geo modifier on it. And now we might get slightly different data, so that's kind of why I like to check it both ways. We might get different suggestions too, So like, I don't know, let's look here once. Look here, Milwaukee heating and cooling. 70 searches, but $9.17 suggested bid. So let's write that one down. Right, that might be a keyword that we maybe would have never found had we not searched both ways. Okay, so basically I would make a list, maybe of like 20 keywords, just whatever I could come up with. I spend a lot of time doing this part because it's important. We want to really make sure that we're capturing a good amount of traffic. And then from this point, I want to find out, do these keywords actually pull up a 7-pack? So that's why I have the 7-pack column, because if they don't actually pull up a 7-pack, then I don't really want to even use those keywords, because after all, that's my goal, is to rank them in the 7-pack. So what I do is I grab the keyword and I simply just do a Google search. Punch it in. Okay, so it didn't pull up a 7-pack per se, but it did pull up a 3-pack. And in my mind, that's good enough, as long as it shows some listings, and it does. It shows 3. So we're gonna mark that as a yes. It does pull a 7-pack. It pulls listings. It doesn't pull a 7-pack, but it pulls listings. So then we'll try furnace repair Milwaukee. All right, that one does pull a 7-pack too. We'll put yes. So let's just pretend that this one said no, and this one said yes or something. I don't know. I would go and do the search on it. So here's kind of my order of operations. I'm going to write this down. I suggest you write this down on a notepad. So the order of operations of picking out the very best keywords. Number 1 is, does it have a 7-pack, right? That's my most important thing. I don't care about monthly searches first. I don't care about suggested bid first. I care whether or not it pulls a 7-pack. Because if it gets 1,000 monthly searches but doesn't have a 7-pack, well, it doesn't do me much good, because ultimately I'm trying to rank in the 7-pack. So that's the first order of operations. The second order of operations in my mind is monthly searches. If Google has documented search data for it, then that's great. And then third is the suggested bid. So that's how I organize them. That's how I organize my keywords in order of importance. So it's helpful if you can kind of structure your document to have that order of importance first. All right. Give me some 5s in the chat box. It is helpful. If you have any questions so far, let me know. Otherwise, we'll jump into structuring the site. I'm going to grab a drink of water really quick. All right, cool. What's the lowest suggested bid I look for? It depends really on how much data I'm looking at, Travis. Like, I mean, if I've got like 15 other keywords to choose from, then I'm going to be pretty picky about the suggested bid. But if I don't have a lot to choose from, any suggested bid is usually a good indicator that, I mean, if people are paying for it, then it's usually a good indicator that it's a good keyword. So kind of just depends on how many options you have. Ron points out a good point as well, is that the higher the suggested bid, you can kind of use that to price, how much you're going to sell your service for, because you can actually show this, hey, Google's charging people $27.90 for leads. You can actually add these all up and get an average. Add all your keywords up and get an average and say, this is what Google on average is charging for just a click to your website. And you can kind of use that to structure your services too. So yeah, it's a real good point, Ron, for sure. All right, cool. So let's talk about website structure. So what I do is called a silo structure, and it's what most SEOs do. And the reason why is because when you send links into inner pages, backlinks, like if I backlink one page, if you have your silo structure set up correctly, that backlink will also affect all of your other pages throughout your site. Like the link won't just benefit just that page you sent it at, but it'll also benefit all of the other pages too. So like what I like to do is I interlink all my pages together in a certain order. And I'll kind of map it out and show you what I mean by that. But basically I start by putting my most important keywords at the top of each column, and then my least important keywords at the bottom. Okay, so, and I categorize them based on the column. So categorize column. So for example, in column A, it might just be about heating and air conditioning, about heating. And then column B might just be about air conditioning. And then column D might just be about ventilation. So I categorize my most important heating keywords, putting the most important closer to the top, least important closer to the bottom. And of course we use the data that we just got before that I showed you from the keyword planner to categorize on importance. So for example, let's say this keyword's furnace repair, maybe it gets 170 monthly searches, and then below that I've got another page called boiler repair, and that one got 100 monthly searches, right? So that's kind of how I would set it up. And then in the next column it might be central AC repair, and maybe that one got 200 monthly searches, and then maybe after that all the monthly searches were 10 on the other keywords. So maybe the next keyword is air conditioning, and the monthly search was 10, so we didn't really look at monthly search, but instead we looked at cost per click, which was $5.06. And then the next keyword after that maybe was window AC repair, and that cost per click was $4, and it had no monthly searches. So does that make sense? Hopefully give me some threes if that makes sense. So I structure it in order of importance. Okay, we'll break it down a little bit further. A lot of people are like 3-ish. They kind of get it, kind of don't. That's okay. So let's pull open a document. So basically, this is kind of what we're looking at. Each black box on here is a separate page on your website. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a different color. This would be our home page. This is just going to be, our lead capture page. There's no real significance with it. But then these pages are going to be, this column would be maybe about furnaces or heating. So this one, we're only going to talk about heating. And then this column, we're probably only going to talk about AC. And then this column, we're only going to talk about ventilation keywords. So basically what you do is on the home page, you're going to have a link. Let me grab a different color so that we don't get any confusion going on here. Okay, so each purple thing is going to signify a new link. So on the home page, we're going to have a link going to our first heating keyword page, and then it's going to go to our first air conditioning page, and then our first ventilation page. So there's going to be, like a link on each home page. So this might be furnace repair Milwaukee. And then that's going to link to the next page, which is going to be, I don't know, maybe it's boiler repair Milwaukee. And then that's going to link to the next page until we run out of heating keywords. And then when we run out of heating keywords, we'll just shoot this back up to here. Then we'll start with the air conditioning. So maybe the best keyword for air conditioning was central AC repair. And then at the end of that article, we have a link going to window AC repair. So on and so forth till we run out of keywords. So most important is at the top. Least important keyword in that category is at the bottom. I don't know why it's not letting me draw on that, so we'll just put it here. Okay, is that making more sense? I can even show you in more detail. We can open up a website if we need to. But let me know if that makes sense. So each black box is a separate page on your site, and each page, you know, depending on what it is, you're writing like a 300 to 500 word article. So like if furnace repair was my most important keyword, then I would write a 300 to 500 word article on this page of my site about furnace repair. Okay, yeah, we can open a site, sure. Let's do it. This might be a long webinar. Hopefully you guys don't mind. But yeah, I think it's definitely beneficial. So let me pop open one of my sites. I'm just going to pull open an example site. This site's not ranking or anything, but I can kind of show you how we structure. So I'm in WordPress. I mean, pretty typical. You know, you can, it doesn't really matter. You can use any platform, but basically what you're going to do is, let's create a new page and let's call this furnace repair. Okay. So we're going to have a 300 to 500 word article here. Then maybe somewhere in the article or at the bottom of the article, we're going to have a link going to our next best keyword in the furnace repair category, which maybe is boiler repair. So basically, we'll publish this. I haven't linked it yet, but we're going to create another page called boiler repair. Okay, and I'll just put, you know, article will be here. So now, let me go back to that furnace repair page. Now I can link it together. I highlight my keyword boiler repair, I hit the link, and then I select the page boiler repair, and I add the link in, and then I update it. So now, those two pages are linked together, right? Here's my link right here. They're linked together. So what that means, basically, in a nutshell, is whenever I send a link to this page, a backlink, to furnace repair, it's also going to affect my boiler repair page. Okay? Is that helpful? More helpful kind of seeing it in action? So that's what I mean by the pages interlinking. Okay, cool. Who writes the article? That's up to you. I mean, you can write it yourself if you want. You can have your client write it if you want. You can have it written on iWriter. I can put a link to iWriter in the chat box. That's the service I use to get my content written. So you can use them if you want. It really doesn't matter. It's, you know, it's more for Google's eyes, for their spiders, more than anything. We don't really expect anyone to read these pages, which is why we try to include the links at the bottom, because we don't really intend on consumers to read these articles. It's more for SEO purposes. All right, cool. So pick out the keywords you want to rank for is the bottom line, and create separate pages on your website, and then interlink those pages together. Okay, so keep in mind, I said this at the beginning, I'm showing you quite a few different strategies for ranking in the 7-pack, you know, for getting your site in this 7-pack. Does that mean you have to do all of them? No, absolutely not. A lot of times we can get away with just structuring our website properly. Other times we can get away with not even structuring the website at all and just manipulating the backlinks. Do you know what I mean? So if you pick a low competitive niche, you can expect to do less work. But if you pick a high competitive niche, then you're going to be doing a lot more of the things I'm talking about right now. All right, cool. Steve asks a really good question. He says, do you use a new website or their existing website? So that depends on the strategy that I plan on using to rank them. So if I plan on doing a lot of changes to their website structure, then I'm definitely probably going to want to use a new website. And if I do use a new website, instead of going like, let's say I'm working with Bowman Plumbing, instead of going and buying bowmanplumbingcompany.com so that I can grab their same domain but slightly different, instead of buying it that way, I would buy it so it's generic. Like I would call it like plumbingprofessionals.com or reliableplumbers.com. So that way, I own that site because I'm going to be putting into a lot of work to the site. So I'm not going to sell them the whole site. Instead, I'm going to just lease it to them. So if they ever decide they don't want to pay me 1 month or something like that, I can just delink the site from their listing. And then all the work that I did on the site is no longer going to help their listing anymore. It's going to be gone. Google's not going to recognize it anymore. And they'll lose their rankings because of that. Cool. All right. Yeah, you do need a local address, which is why you're going to use their address. So you use their address, you use their company name, but you use your own website, which is generically branded. How much do I lease it for? I lease them the whole service, basically, for $1,000 a month. Is the average of what me and my students charge. I've had other students of mine who've billed $1,700 a month, and then I've had students who've billed $500 a month. It just depends on how much work you're going to do or what you feel comfortable with. What do I mean by delink from the listing? Let me show you what I mean. So here's how you manage your listings. You come into google.com/business. Okay, google.com/business. And then you'll be able to manage your listings in here. And I've got some junk ones on here because I was showing example for coaching students and stuff. But basically, when you have a listing up here, you can come into it and you can click edit. And here's the contact info. You can delete the website from it. Okay? You can delete the website. The other thing you can do is you can swap out their phone number for a tracking phone number, which is cool because that allows you to really see how many leads you're sending them. So what I do is I pick up one of these phone numbers from CallFire. Otherwise, if you're not in the United States or Canada, Twilio is what you'd want to use. If you're like in the UK or Australia, Twilio will work. But I like CallFire. I like their interface for my US customers and Canada customers. And what you do is you pick up a phone number from them. They cost $3 one time. They have this pay-as-you-go plan, which is the one you want to go with. It'll cost you $3, and then it's just $1 per month to keep that number. And for pretty minimal investment, now you've got a way to track all of the leads that come in. So that number basically forwards over to the client right away. So like, let's say you own the number 262-222-3333. When someone calls that number, it'll instantly forward over to your client. There's no middleman. You don't have to answer the phone and, play receptionist or anything like that. It'll just automatically happen. So that's kind of cool. And in the process, what also happens is that it'll all be tracked. You'll see who called, what time they called, how long they stayed on the phone for. You can even record the phone calls if you want. You can print off a report at the end of the month that shows them all the calls. So it's pretty cool. It's a big benefit. Now the downside of this is if you change their phone number, you're going to also have to change their citations. Okay? So it's a trade-off. It's going to be a determining factor, like, do you want to do that work? So what we do is we charge a $1,500 setup fee to our clients. To show that they're serious and that, they want to work with us and stuff, we charge them $1,500 and we get everything set up for them. Normally it takes about 3 to 4 weeks to really get everything set up. And part of what that $1,500 setup fee includes is it includes our time for going in and changing their citations because we use a tracking phone number. So what a citation is it's the name of the business, address, and phone number. So what you'll find a lot of times is you'll find that some business owners have a lot of citations out there already. And a citation is that information, so the above info listed on another site. So it's kind of like a backlink, only instead of the website, it's using the business's name, address, and phone number. So when that information is listed on another website, like here's some examples: Yelp, Angie's List. You guys heard of these companies before, right? When that information is listed on other sites like these guys, that's considered a citation. And that's kind of like a backlink for local marketing. So we go through and we change the phone numbers basically on those other sites to also match the tracking phone number, to match whatever it says on our listing. Okay? Because you want everything to be, mostly you want it to match all across the board. So this is another strategy. So we've covered kind of 3 strategies. The first strategy we covered was your on-page stuff, right? Structuring the site. I showed you how to structure the site and kind of interlink stuff together. And then we talked about citations. That's another strategy. Going into like Yelp and making sure that they have a lot of citations. And we'll dive into this in more detail. And then the third was off-page optimization, which is backlinking. And again, we're going to talk about that in more detail too. But these are really the 3 main things that control a ranking. And again, you don't have to do all of these 3 things necessarily. Sometimes you can get away with doing just one of these things. Sometimes you can get away with doing just 2 of them. And then other times you need to really focus on all 3, depending on the competition. So if you really make sure that you're picking a really good low competition niche, chances are you'll be able to just focus on a couple of these things and not have to do all of it. But I want to show you all of it. I want to make sure you understand everything. So, don't feel like it's like a huge thing and like there's so much to learn, because really there's really only these 3 components, and you really don't even have to do all 3 of the components all the time. But it's always a good idea to know how to do them, if that makes sense. So let's talk about citations. You already know how to do on-page. We talked about that. Let's talk about citations and cover that. So we use this tool called WhiteSpark to reverse engineer our competitors' citations. So I'll put this link in the chat box for you. All right, so what you do is you basically enter in your client's location, enter in the main key phrase, the main category that they're categorized under, that pulls up a 7-pack, and then you hit search. And I'm going to drag this over to my other screen and see if I can find an example for you to look at. Okay, so I pulled up a search from a dentist in West Bend. I did dentist West Bend, which is, my area. So what you see is you see the top ranking businesses at the top here. And then over here in this column where I'm highlighting, you see this number 76, 158, 69. Those are the number of citations that they have. So what you can do is you can use this tool number 1 to go in and correct the citations if you need to. Or what I use this tool for a lot is to reverse engineer what my competition is doing. So if I want to see all the citations that West Bend Dental Center has, I can click View Sources here, and I can see exactly which ones that I should go after for my client. I can see they're on Yelp. I can see they're on Dexnose. I can see they're on local.yahoo, right? So now I can gather this list. I can export this as a CSV file, and I can go after all those citations. Now, going after a citation is pretty easy. A common one is called Hotfrog, hotfrog.com, and I'm going to just show you one of them. Keep in mind, every site is slightly different, so you're going to have to use a little bit of common sense, of course, but typically there's going to be like an Add Your Business button, and you'll click it, and you'll just fill out the information: name, address, phone number, create an account. We just create it under the business owner's name, and that's it. It's done. That's your citation created. So you can choose to do that yourself, which can be a little time consuming. But again, that's why we're charging a $1,500 setup fee usually. Or I can recommend someone to you. I'm not affiliated with this at all, but me and my students use this person all the time, and I've never had a bad complaint, and they've never had a bad order. her name's Virtual Girl 2010. She's a Fiverr provider. I'll put it in the chat box for you. But you could search it too. Just go on Fiverr and type in Virtual Girl 2010. And she offers this gig where she'll do the local citations for you. So the most expensive option is 120 of them for $55. So I don't know. I guess it depends how much your time is worth. But for me, I'd much rather just export that list from Whitespark and hand it off to her and have her do it. It just makes more sense for me. So it's a good resource. And that's citations in a nutshell. Any questions on citations? I mean, that's really all there is to it. And then if there's not, we can dive into off-page optimization a little bit more if you guys want. I don't know how much time you guys have, but... Steve, I don't care for it too much, to be honest with you, the service that you mentioned. I'm not going to read it out loud because I don't want to give them promotion, but I don't care for it too much personally. Everyone knew what I was talking about already before I even mentioned it. Sano says, so it needs to match the business owner's phone number. It needs to match if you're going to use their phone number, but if you're going to switch that phone number out with a tracking phone number from Qualifier, then it should match that phone number. All right, cool. John, yeah, we actually hire outsourcers as well. We use a couple different sites for hiring outsourcers to like do manual changes and stuff like that. We use easyoutsource.com is one of them. And these are all outsourcers from the Philippines. On average, you'll pay like $3 to $3.50 an hour. So that's pretty cool. So you can go and look here. The other service, if you want to find people maybe quicker, but they're going to be more like freelance type if you go on this site, like they're not going to really be looking for a permanent position, is upwork.com, which used to be called Odesk. So these are two of my favorite sites for VA type work. How do you track them if you use Easy Outsource? I use this tool called hubstaff.com to track them. So it'll put like a screen recording software on their computer, and when they work, it'll take random snapshots of their computer as they're working. Dan says, can I repeat how I find the citations? I go into Whitespark, Dan, and then you just click View Sources after you do your search, and then you export it as a CSV file right here. All right, cool. Let's talk about off-page optimization. That's really kind of the final component to everything. Now, sometimes, if I don't want to build out a new website for the client, sometimes you can get away with doing off-page optimization and manipulating their rankings that way. Like if you really don't feel like building out a new website and renting it to them, which I highly recommend it, that's a really great strategy because it's an asset you have forever. It's kind of like buying an apartment building and then renting it out to someone every month. So it's highly recommended, but if you really don't want to do it, there's other ways you can manipulate the ranking with off-page backlinking. So let's talk about that. So we talked about this scale of finding sites that have a high domain authority, remember? High page rank, high domain authority. So how do you think you go about finding sites that have a high domain authority that will be willing to give you a backlink? You know, there's been strategies out there like guest blogging. You know, you could find the site that is out there and you can ask them if you could write a blog post on their site and in turn put a link back to your website. So that's one way, and there's lots of ways out there, but by far my favorite strategy is finding domains that have expired. So basically what that means is someone out there already has a domain. We'll just call it random.com. They had this domain random.com, and it might already have good metrics. Like it might already have a domain authority of 19, which would be basically a page rank 2. But what happened was they didn't pay GoDaddy to renew the site, or they forgot to renew it. So what GoDaddy does is they then take that site and they turn around and sell it off. They auction it off to the highest bidder. So a lot of times you can pick up sites like this anywhere between 12 and, I mean, honestly, they go up to $150 even, and sometimes even higher. So the key is is to try and uncover these sites and pay as little as possible for them, you know, around $12. And a good way to really find the good sites is, for one, looking at the domain authority metric. Because some people still, they haven't caught on to that. They're still looking at PageRank, you know. They don't realize that PageRank hasn't been updated for a while. Although most people know that by now, but there's still people who don't. So there's a couple different metrics that I look at when I'm buying expired domains. So basically what I do is I go and I look for an expired domain to buy. And then what I do is I rebuild that site. Okay, I set up hosting. And I rebuild the site. And by rebuild the site, I basically mean that equals, you know, putting up 5 to 6 articles on it. You know, nothing that's a big deal. You know, you can outsource it to iWriter or whatever. Put up a random WordPress theme. Doesn't have to be anything crazy, you know, just a WordPress site. Just use a free theme or whatever. And then what you can do from there is you can use that site to backlink 5 to 6 of your clients. So then you can use that same site for 5 to 6 of your clients, and you can get them, for example, a backlink from a DA19 site. Now here's the key with this. Google came down pretty hard on private blog networks that were selling links. So what would happen is, you know, one guy would go and have like 100 blog networks, and he would sell a service to someone where for $40 a month you can come and you can put your backlinks on as many of the blog networks as you want. So everyone would pay for the service. You know, you'd have hundreds of people paying for this service and all using the same 100 rebuilt expired domains. Well, what happened was it created a big footprint, and Google caught on. Google was able to trace all of those sites because everyone was using the same ones, you know, the same 100 sites or whatever, for example. And they went and they penalized all of them. So you have to be smart about this. You have to watch your footprints. You're not creating footprints. So the key to doing that is, number one, use a random WordPress theme. Don't use the same WordPress theme on every site. Number two, register your domains. Like when you win the auction, register them either under a fake name or use the whois guard or the privacy. You know how when you buy a domain, they ask you if you want to set it to private? So you can do that. And then the other thing is separate hosting. You know, set it up on a separate web host. Don't host all your domains on HostGator. Don't host them all on GoDaddy. Spread them out throughout different places. So you do that, and then also don't use the same 5 backlinks on each site. You know, don't backlink Bob's Plumbing on all of your same 5 sites, and then go and backlink Harry's Plumbing on those same exact 5 sites too, because that would create a footprint. You know, rotate them around. Put different clients on different sites. So to find cheap hosting, you know, it sounds kind of like a big deal to buy separate hosting for each one, right? It's not really. We use this web hosting talk forum. If you just Google web hosting talk forum, they have this shared hosting offers forum. And this is where a lot of SEOs are going now when they need, you know, hosting because it's cheap. You can find hundreds of companies on here who are offering web hosting at a fraction of the price. And it's because they're probably trying to get their web hosting company off the ground. So you can find companies that are starting up and they're trying to grow their business, and look at $6.23 a year for hosting. It's crazy. So it really doesn't cost you much. Cool. So Travis asks, should all the articles be related or can they be kind of random? So you can actually kind of go in time and see what they looked like in the past. There's this tool called Wayback Machine. If you Google Wayback Machine, you can go back in time and see what the site used to look like. You just punch it in here, and it'll show you a history of what the site was in the past. So then that'll help you know what to make the articles about. And to be honest, I just backlink any kind of link. Like even if the site was about health, I'll still backlink a plumber on there. Some people don't like to do that. They say that you shouldn't, but I've always done it and I've never had a problem. The link for hosting, I can put it in the chat box for you. Okay, so how do you find these expired domains? What to look for? I use this service a lot. It's called domcop.com. I'll put a link to that in the chat box too. Okay. Okay, so domcop.com. And what you can do is they've got a list of the expired domains from like all over the place. I mean, there's thousands of them. There may even be like millions or hundreds of thousands. There's a lot, basically. And what you can do is you can look at the Moz Domain Authority column right here. Pick out ones that have a good, Moz Domain Authority. And then you can also look at the trust flow too. Like, here's the trust flow and citation flow. So, again, you want a trust flow over 10. And you also want the domain authority to be probably over 10 too, would be good. If you could go even higher on the domain authority, that's even better. But basically what you can do then is you can take these sites and you can bid on them. You'll want to check out their backlink profile. Go into Majestic. Where's Majestic? Over here. Go into Majestic and, if they have a high trust flow, chances are they probably have good backlinks. But just check out their keywords that they've used down here. Make sure there's not like a bunch of like keywords that say porn or something like that, because obviously that's going to not be good for your site. But if you see decent keywords and stuff, you're probably safe. And then you can kind of make an educated decision on if you should bid on it. And then what you can do is you can take one of those sites then, and you can take it and paste it into the Wayback Machine here, and you can browse history and go back in time. So let's go back to 2012, and we can kind of see what this site was about. So this looks like maybe it was like an anime site or something, or some kind of game. So now I know what to write my articles about. Heck, you could probably even take the articles right off of here if you want. You're not going to be penalized with duplicate content, so. Awesome. Steven says this info is just fantastic. It's filling in huge gaps. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Any questions related to this before we move on? Peter says, why do you have to go for a high trust flow number? High trust flow number usually indicates that the quality of their backlinks is good. Like, meaning that they didn't get backlinks from like I said, like porn links or something like that. So it's just usually a good indicator that they have high quality backlinks. So when you get a backlink from that site after you rebuild it, it's going to pass all those good backlinks over to your site. Cool. Beth, yeah, I guess it kind of is. So write your own content, but now you know what to write it on. Like if I were to buy this site, I would know my content should be written about gaming, right? All right, Marlon's asking about what I charge my clients. He mentions a $1,500 setup fee, but he says, do I charge them a monthly fee? And the answer is I do. I charge them a monthly fee because, number one, they're going to be renting links from my private blog network, basically, right? If I'm not rebuilding them a site, they're at least renting links from my blog network. Otherwise, I'm renting them a site. So you bet I charge them a monthly fee. On average, me and my students charge $1,000 a month. All right, cool. What would I charge a client for just fixing citations and claiming their business? Well, I don't really do that. I'm not really interested in a one-time thing. I'm interested in getting them results for the long term. So that comes with a monthly fee. All right, how many sites do I have in my PBN? I have a lot, Marlon. I don't even know the exact number. A lot, though. That's one of the best things as an SEO that you can invest in is getting your private blog network going. Okay. I'm just looking at more questions here. Let's talk about how you actually get control of their listing. So there's going to be clients that don't have a listing. And basically what you want to do, I normally like to start a new Gmail account for each client to kind of keep things separate. Like when I start working with Bob's Plumbing, then I start a new Gmail account just to work on his stuff. So when you do that, you can visit google.com/business. I'll put this URL in the chat box. And that's going to take you to this page. And you can type in here storefront or service area. You'll select what kind of business they are. So like service area would be like if they're traveling to their location. Storefront would be like if people are coming in. And then you can search for their business here. And you can walk through the wizard to actually claim the listing and whatnot. Or sometimes it won't be found. You can use the phone number too. Sometimes it won't be found at all. And if it's not found, it'll look like this. And when you click on it, you'll just be asked to create the listing. So you'll just punch in the information. And after you punch in this information, they're going to send you a they're going to send a postcard out in the mail. So you'll have to tell your client to keep a lookout because they're going to be getting a postcard in the mail. And when they get it, they should give you a call so that you can enter in that PIN number. And basically, once that PIN number is entered, you're going to, let me get back to the page. Just kind of giving you the brief walkthrough. You're gonna get, a page that comes up like this when you visit that URL. So when you visit google.com/business, after you get the PIN number in, you'll punch it in here, and then you'll be able to manage your listing. So you'll be able to come in here then and connect up your website. Hit edit, and you'll be able to come in here and enter in your tracking phone number, punch in your website. Google gives you some categories to pick out. So you can't manipulate the keywords in this section, like you can't pick out your own keywords. But if you start to type, it'll let you know what's available. So just pick out all the ones that relate to your listing as much as possible. Okay, so you can do that. You can add in your hours. And then just write a short paragraph or two about the company, an introduction. And then you're good to go. Now there's a bug going around, and one of the reasons why I wanted to hold this mastermind session, and that is this. After you request to verify the listing, you get this thing popped up on your page. It says your page has been blocked since it's been identified as spam. To unblock your page, please verify it. And of course, once you verify it, they'll have you enter in the PIN. But here's what will actually happen. This is the bug. And it means that you got hit with a manual review. Basically is what it means. So what happened is after you enter in the verification code, this stuff won't go away. It'll still be there. So what I found out, it was happening to a lot of my clients actually. I found out that they were getting hit with manual reviews because what happened was someone had went in and changed the White House's maps listing to say something. I don't know if you guys remember that. Did anyone see that on TMZ or the news? Someone went into Google Maps and edited the White House's listing, Google Places listing. I don't know if anyone else saw that. So what Google did was it really started manually reviewing a lot of listings when people started creating them. So what happens is after you verify, you still see this little thing up here. So I started getting kind of worried, but I found out what it meant was it was a manual review. And it normally takes about 2 weeks to get out of that manual review, and after that, you're golden. So we got hit with this with a lot of our listings, even our lead gen listings, stuff that we did a little gray hat, where we rented a mailbox and didn't really have a real company at that address, but we rented a mailbox. And they all passed the manual review too still, so it's kind of cool. But anyways, I just wanted you guys to be prepared for that. It takes about 2 weeks to get out of that. So if you get hit with that, just know that that's what it is. Ron says, do you also send backlinks to the page or just the website? It depends, Ron. I prefer to send most of them to the site because that's going to do the most damage. But if I'm having a problem with getting the, when I say damage, I mean a good thing. I mean, it's going to do good things for the business. So, but anyways, if I'm noticing that their page is having trouble getting indexed, like for example, I do a search for Plumber Milwaukee and it's been a couple of weeks and I click map results and I keep going back in time. I'll show you what I mean once this loads. Okay, so I keep hitting this forward button and looking at listings and I'm just not finding it. Then I'll start to consider throwing some links at the actual listing itself. And that kind of forces the index to happen. So it's kind of a judgment call. I use separate Google accounts to manage my listings. But you don't necessarily have to. Nowadays, Google's pretty fine with you managing a bunch of listings. I've had several conversations with people at Google, and it's not really like an uncommon thing. But personally, I like to use separate Gmail accounts. So if I'm working with one client and they have 5 listings, then I don't really have a problem managing them all on the same account. But I don't really want to mix up the listings I'm doing with my plumber with my dental client. You know what I mean? So it's just a preference. Yep, this works for restaurants and hotels as well. Looks slightly different, the 7-pack, but it's still the same thing. Still the same strategy, too. Do I log into Gmail with the same IP and does that pose a problem? To be honest, I use the same IP most of the time, unless I'm doing something that I would consider a little gray hat. then maybe I'd use an IP address, like a VPN or proxy. But that if you want to use proxies, it's not a bad idea. There's this tool called Foxy Proxy. It's a Chrome plugin and a Mozilla plugin too. But what it does is it puts all your proxies into an organized list. So you can easily click it. I don't want to show all my proxies, but you can easily click on the proxy rather than having to like switch all your settings. Yeah, it's called Foxy Proxy. I'll paste that into Google, into the chat box. Get foxyproxy.org. So if you're really paranoid about it, you can do that. But to be honest, especially if you're just starting out, you're really got nothing to worry about. I wouldn't even bother with it if I was just starting out. All right, cool. So, any other questions? Ron says, sometimes I see only one Google My Business page listing for a keyword. That normally is just a mixed listing then. It's normally that it's not really a 7-pack at all, but rather it's just pulling up a certain company and showing you their local information. Marlon says, what mailbox service do you use that Google approves of? Google doesn't approve of any mailbox service. So if you're going to use that strategy, you should know that that's considered gray hat. Now, I don't have a problem with gray hat strategies myself because gray hat in my mind means that you might be breaking terms of service with Google, like you might be breaking their rules, but you're not like breaking the law and you're not hurting anyone. So in my mind, it's fine. I guess it just depends on where your moral ethics are, or what you consider right or wrong. But for me, I'm okay with breaking Google's rules and bending the rules a little bit there as long as I'm not breaking the law or hurting anyone. So in that case, what you need to look for is you need to look for a mailbox rental that allows you to use their street address. So if it says P.O. Box 123, that's a no. So we'll put an X on that. That's a no-go. However, if it says 123 Water Street, #123, that would be okay if the mailbox rental lets you do that. If they say 123 Water Street and they say no, you have to do PMB 123, which stands for private mailbox, that also would not be okay. That's not going to fly. So this is the one you're looking for. So call around mailbox places. You can do a Google search in your area and ask if they let you use their street address. And if they do, then you're A-okay. To be honest with you, some of them tell me you have to use private mailbox, and I'll just put the # anyways, and they don't care. They never even find out. So, but yeah, that's just a little tip there. And again, that strategy would be considered a little gray hat, but in my opinion, it's fine. You're not hurting anyone. Might be breaking Google's rules, but it's not hurting anyone. Not breaking the law by any means. No, Zach says, can you use a single address to have several business listings from? So like, for example, can you use your house address and then just make up a bunch of suite numbers? Probably wouldn't recommend that unless it legitimately is like an office building. Then it would be okay, like a doctor's office or something like that. Or if you had an office building, and in Google's eyes, it would really look like you could rent it out to multiple people, then I would say you're okay. But if you're talking about using your residential street address and creating suite numbers on it, probably not a good idea. Yeah, this is a strategy we use to own everything. Then we own the listing, we own the website, we own the phone number, and we own the address. And in that case, we can either just lease that whole property to them for a certain monthly fee, or we can just charge on a per lead basis. And we can figure out what to charge based on suggested bids, even if we want. So Paul says, why would you need to do that? You wouldn't need to. You could just use their address, but in some cases, some of us like to have control over the address too. That way we own everything. That's really the only benefit to it, is you own everything. Cool. All right. So I'll do some more questions, but I do want to offer people a chance to work with me one-on-one in my workshop as well. I have another group starting out. Sano's actually in here. I noticed that her name was on the chat log. She's actually going to be in the next group with us too as well. But basically, we're doing a workshop. It's pauljames.com/workshop. It's going to be 6 weeks long. And I'll put this in the chat box. You can check out some of the reviews here that we got. People who here's $6,000 and a $1,700 a month SEO contract for stuff we went over. But basically what it is it's a 6-week workshop where we work together every week for an hour in small groups. And then every Tuesday and Thursday we have one-on-one time built in as well, where we actually will do like one-on-one coaching together. So it's pretty awesome. It's a great way to get this business model set up and work with, with me, someone who knows what they're doing and someone who does this for a living, and just basically shortcut your learning curve. We've had people who were able to land 4 or 5 clients in 6 weeks. That otherwise maybe that would have taken them a year to do or something like that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like hiring a personal trainer rather than just going to the gym and trying to figure out how to use all the equipment. It's like you can hire a personal trainer and they can teach you how to do proper form and how to eat right. So it's kind of like that's like the analogy I like to use. So if you're interested, the deal is I've got some scholarships available still that I'm going to be giving out. I've got like 4 of them left, 3 or 4 of them left. And they're $1,000 scholarship towards the cost. The cost of the program is in the low 4-figure range. So, it's definitely not a cheap program, but that scholarship will help offset the cost quite a bit. And like I said, our goal is to help you land clients. It's not something where you're jumping into like a video course and then you're on your own. No, we're working together, not only in small groups, but one-on-one to help you get results. Like I said, you can go through and read the testimonials on this page. I've put some of the good ones on there. We've just had tremendous results with people landing multiple clients during that 6 weeks. And I'm looking for a few more people to work with in this next group to help get some results too. So let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm free to hang around a little bit longer and answer questions. And, if you decide you want to work together, then you can head and fill out the application form on this page too, and that would be cool as well. But please only fill it out if you're serious about it. I'm going to take time out of my day to check it out. And if you look like you're a good fit, we're going to hop on a call and make sure that I can help you. One thing I won't do is I won't take your money unless I really know that I can help you. So yeah, definitely check that out. Tom says, does support extend past 6 weeks? So support extends past 6 weeks, but it's just not, it won't be like one-on-one mentoring past the 6 weeks, but it'll be, I always provide support, so of course. But within the 6 weeks, the goal is to get you all set up. It's structured in a way that you get homework assignments each week, so you're taking action as we go along, and you're getting results as we go along, rather than just getting a bunch of information, because that really doesn't do anyone any good. All right, cool. I'm going to going through more questions here, and if I miss your questions, I apologize. You can feel free to send them to me. If I don't answer them live on the call, there's a lot coming in. There's a few hundred people on here right now, so. Arthur, that's something we talk about during the coaching program, during the workshop, is how to approach new clients. The biggest thing that I do different than other people out there is that I don't approach clients with the idea that I'm going to rank them on the first page of Google. Rather, I approach them with the idea that I'm going to get them more business. Ranking them on the first page of Google is how I'm going to get them more business, but they don't necessarily care about that. What they care about is the results that I'm going to provide for them. And the results are they're going to get more clients. They're going to get more business. So that's how you should approach it. Awesome. Let's go through more questions. And again, I apologize if I miss some. There's a lot of questions coming in, so it's hard to read them all. So if I miss them, you can email them to me. All right. Sorry, a lot of questions coming in. I'm just trying to filter through the ones that I didn't already answer because there's a lot of duplicates. All right. If you change the citation phone numbers to match the tracking number, how can it track it? Because all the calls that come in through the tracking phone number are tracked. So we know that it's directly related to something we've done. Yes, there will be a replay, for sure. The workshop starts next week, Larry. So if you're interested, it's something you're going to want to act on quick. And again, I've got those scholarships available for the first 3 or 4 people that I talk to for $1,000. So, you can apply for that on this page, and I would love to work with you. But again, it's going to be something I'm going to make sure you're a good fit first. So that's why we do the application process, because there's a lot of people that I just don't think are ready for it, and I don't think are in a good position for it. So I definitely want to make sure that you're in a good position and that I think I can help you before we work out any kind of arrangement. So yeah, yep, I see a lot of people asking about the replay. Definitely. Paul James is really worth the money. Real practical advice to use in the real business world. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. With this business model, how much can be done over the phone and internet? Tom, that's a great question. And to be honest with you, when I first started off, I was making pretty good money. My first year, I did well into the 6 figures my first year. But the problem is that I was meeting with clients my first year. My first year full time. I was meeting with clients, I was driving around town, and I was getting incredibly frustrated, to be honest with you. They were wanting to meet over little things here and there, and that just drove me crazy. And the biggest problem I found was that, number one, I wasn't charging enough. I started off by not charging enough right off the bat. So I was dealing with a bunch of pain in the butt clients. Because naturally when you charge more, you attract a different audience. You attract the people who are real serious about what you're doing. Not the people who are watching every dollar, So you attract a different audience. I don't know if that makes sense, but for some reason that's just the way it is. So that was one reason. So then I switched my business model maybe about 1.5 to 2 years in. And I actually stopped meeting with clients for the most part. If I did meet with a client, I charged them to meet with them. And I started closing people either over Skype. I'd allow them to do a Skype call for free. Otherwise, I would charge them to meet with them. And I started setting up sales processes, which really gave me more than enough leads than I could ever use or want. And that's part of what we cover in coaching. We talk about setting up automated sales funnels, which funnel these leads in with very little effort. And we also talk about calling strategies too. Those are good long term, but calling strategies are good short term. Like if you need a client today, then you want to look at a calling strategy. So we have a calling strategy which revolves around listings that haven't been verified, and it works really well. That's how the majority of people close clients right away within the 6 weeks, is with that. So yeah, that's something that you can do without meeting with clients, especially the sales funnels. We've had students who were in Asia land people in New York. I remember one student in particular landing a plumber in New York. Happens all the time. I've got clients in Sweden and New Zealand, in Australia and Canada. It's really not out of the ordinary. Someone said, is there a cost for this? Yeah, there's definitely a cost for this. It's in the low 4-figure price range. But again, I'm going to be offering a $1,000 scholarship to 3 or 4 people. So, that's going to offset that cost quite a bit. Beyond that, additional things that you'd want to have are, you're gonna have to think about hosting. So you're gonna need like a way to build websites and hosting. Probably just all standard tools that internet marketers already have. We're not talking anything crazy. If you had like an extra $200 to put towards expenses for the coaching program for setting everything up, in addition to my fee, an extra $200, you would be like really set. Like that's going to get you pretty far. So good questions though, for sure. Someone says, do I upload customer videos to YouTube? Yeah, you can definitely do that. It's definitely a good idea because the YouTube account can tie right in with the business listing actually. So whatever you upload to the listing actually kind of connects right with YouTube. So yeah, definitely. So no, yeah, that's definitely a great platform. Whatever call tracking software you want to use is fine. I've just been using Callfire for a really long time, and for me, it's kind of hard to part with it because I'm real familiar with the interface, and I just really like it. Can you host your own websites on a service like a shared hosting service? Yeah, you can. The main thing is you just don't want to host your private blog network sites on that same one. So you can host like your own site there, but don't host like your PBN sites there. That's a no-no. Are my clients in Sweden Swedish or American? They're Swedish. Actually, it's really challenging because all the SEO is done in Swedish. So it's a language I don't speak. So I have to use the Google Translator to help me through it. Awesome. You've already built a few websites in anticipation of the homework with my coaching. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. Um, it's definitely going to pay off for sure. Yeah, Yassine, apply. Definitely apply. I would love to chat with you. I think you're definitely in a good position to apply. All right. Cool. So I think I answered all questions. Again, feel free to email me. Feel free to add me if you want. Here's the info for that. Let's go back up. And I'd love to chat with you. You know, if you're right for coaching, sounds like something you want to do. You want to take me up on that scholarship. I'd love to chat with you on that too. You know, I just ask that you please don't waste my time. I'm really really busy, and I try to do these every other month or so to help 10 people or so, really 10 times their business. And I take a lot of time out of my day to do that, and I do a lot of free stuff like this too to help people out who can't afford to do coaching, because I hope that maybe this helps get you in a better place too. So I ask that you please make sure you're at least ready for it if you're going to apply for it and not waste my time. So, but yeah, I look forward to talking with some of you guys, and I hope that you enjoyed the webinar. And we'll do another one of these maybe in a month from now, a month and a half from now, if you guys like it. Just let me know in the chat box. Let me know what you think of the webinar, and if you want to do another one soon, let me know. There's always new information to share. Yeah, there will be a replay for sure. Awesome. Cool. If you want to put what your favorite thing out of the webinar was in the chat box too, feel free to let me know. What was your favorite thing we talked about? We can also, that way it'll help me for the next one to know what I should focus on. Awesome. Tom says he would have paid $100 just to attend the webinar. Cool, Tom. Thanks. I appreciate that. Awesome. Yassine says the same thing too. Very cool. I really appreciate that, guys. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we'll wrap up. I'll get the replay out for you by tonight, and I look forward to it. Catch you later.